Hi, how's it going? This is Resident of Collinwood, and I'm here to do a Dark Shadows video. Um, this video is about the ending of the original 1966 series and the potential beginning of the new one. And if you can hear in the background in my living room, I have the Coffin box set going. I'm almost done with it for the 5th time, so I really enjoy watching these and going back even to the beginning and watching it through. A lot of episodes to get through, trust me. And I kept thinking about the end of the Coffin box set. Well, the two endings. The ending where Barnabas, Julia, and Professor Stokes come back to 1970 and everything is normal. And Barnabas isn't a vampire anymore. He's cured. So there's that. Now, for those who don't know, Dark Shadows got into many, many supernatural aspects. Obviously a vampire, werewolf. Quentin is actually still a werewolf. He just doesn't change because of his portrait that Charles Delaware Tate painted. Witches, warlocks, ghosts, the devil, zombies. Listen, time travel, parallel time, obviously. And so Dark Shadows got in every Adam and Eve, Frankenstein, the whole 9 yards. Dark Shadows literally got into everything and anything supernatural. In many, many ways, Dark Shadows was supernatural. The show Supernatural prior to Supernatural. It just didn't have two brothers fighting the supernatural or fighting evil of the supernatural. But you had the Collins family who would experience supernatural events. And when you look at the ending of the original series of how they came back through Quentin's staircase back to their own time of 1970. Angelique is dead. Barnabas isn't a vampire no more. You have Professor Stokes and Julia Hoffman. You don't see any of the other characters when they come back down through the staircase. So I'm going to start there. And I think of the word sequel to a series, and that's what the new series is going to be or supposed to be. It's going to be a sequel or follow-up to the original series. And I go, okay, the first question isn't so much about Barnabas, it's about, are they going to address time travel and parallel time? Because while that didn't come into play until later in the series, you do have to address that into the elephant into the room, and that's one of the big ones. Do I think they're going to talk about the parallel time ending of how it was a what if Barnabas never became a vampire? No, not in the sense of they're going to talk about it like that's how it all ended. I think they're going to talk about everything that had been written down by two specific people. One, Dr. Julia Hoffman, and the other, Professor Elliot T. Stokes. I think you're going to get a lot of character mentions about those two in particular, because when you're getting into parallel time itself, you cannot not mention Professor Elliot T. Stokes. Because he's the one who theorized, if you can hear the yelling in the background of the TV, he's the one who theorized parallel time. And long before they showed the 1970 parallel time room. So when you get into that, you go, are they going to mention the parallel time ending? No, but I think they're going to mention Elliot T. Stokes' theory and whether or not it was proven. Now, That's something I think they're going to mention. And I also think the person who is either going to concur with him or they're also going to mention about this is Dr. Julia Hoffman. I honestly think that those two characters really, are they going to be the sole reason for the series? No, I don't think they will, no, but I think they're going to be mentioned characters because how do you not mention them? You know what I mean? How do you just ignore them? You don't. I don't think there will be any, and this includes Victoria Winters too. I'm going to get into that here in a second. I think every character will at least be mentioned. Because look, even though they wrote her off, Victoria Winters was mentioned. Now we can look. I'm not going to get into the debate: is she alive or is she dead? You guys know how I feel about that. I feel the character is still somehow alive. But if you don't, if you disagree with that, then go right ahead. I'm not here to twist your arm. So before I address Barnabas or anything else, the issue is, again, like I said, are they going to address parallel time? Yeah, I do, but not in the way of, oh, it ended like this. No, I think the people we're going to start with is the Collins family themselves. Again, think about the word sequel. And this is where I'm going to transition into Victoria a little bit. The Dark Shadows series, and even the movie, the 2012 movie, the 1966 series, the 91 revival, the 04 unaired pilot, and the movie. I'm going to preference the movie for a brief period. How did they all start? All four of those. They all started with somebody coming to Collinsport. So there lies the first real good question of, even though I just addressed parallel time a bit, which I'm going to get more into this video, I might do too. How, who is going to be the person who comes to Collinsport if they do indeed have that? Is it going to be Victoria Winters? Again, do I want Alexandra Isles back in this series? Yes, I do. I hope they get as many as the original cast as they can. The ones living, obviously. The ones who they can honestly write in. I do think, before I continue with Victoria Winters, I do think that Nancy Barrett will come back as Carolyn's daughter. I definitely think no matter whether she does or doesn't, they're going to have definitely both of the Collins children. I think they're going to have Carolyn and David. Now, whether they get Nancy Barrett and David Hensley, I don't know. I do think, in my opinion, and I want to stress that, this is my opinion, and I know David Hensley hasn't had really anything to do with Dark Shadows for a long time. I do think they'll make him an offer to come back. I do think they'll try to get the actress Nancy Barrett and the actor David Hensley to play the parts. Because if you're going to do the original series, like sequel the original series, you want to be as true to it as possible. So I think they're going to at least make the attempt of trying to get them. Now, that leads me into Alexandra Isles. Do I think they'll make the attempt? Yes. Do I think they'll get her? I don't know. I hope they do, and I hope whatever they write in is great for all these characters. Now, my main concern is Victoria Winters going to be the primary focus if you do that? I don't think the older characters are so much going to be the focus. I think, because again, you're making a sequel to the 1966 series. So that's that's my opinion. I don't think they're going to so much make the older characters the main focus. They're sort of going to be the backdrop they're going to be somewhat the foundation, but the major foundation is going to be their kids or slash grandkids at this point of what they're doing, what adventures they're on. I think you're going to hear about them more than you are the original members, but the original, members like a Carolyn or a David are going to be a part of the story because, in a long sense, they're going to have to be. That they're going to go along for the ride in a way. They're going to grow up, so to speak. You know what I mean? They're going to have kids or grandkids, like I said. So there's that. And I think that's where the mischief is really going to start, is with the younger generation. And one way it could start, to sort of talk about a potential way, is anytime a younger generation happens, what does the younger generation always learn about, whether willingly or unwillingly? They learn about the older generation, whether it's through a class or just through your family. So when you're getting into your family history, you learn that you usually learn that through intermediate family. And look, the Collins family had the Collins family history book and the Collins family Bible. And I do think that's where a lot of this is going to originate, off the family's history. Because in the long scheme of things, the Collins family had a long history, and we all know that. And it was full of controversy, just like again, and secrets. A lot of secrets. So I do think they're going to go off the Collins family history. And again, that's my opinion too. I don't have fact to support that other than from watching the original show of what they did there in the long scheme of things. And when you think about the word sequel, to me, the word sequel means you're going to directly tie this to that original series. So the first step would be get as many original characters as you can back with writing them in. And I do think Carolyn and David will be there. Again, whether they're played by the actor or actress, I don't know. Now, to sort of move forward a little bit, because I think I'm repeating myself, so I apologize. To sort of get back to parallel time, what was parallel time, if you don't know what that is? Okay, in 1970, in Collinsport, there was a lot of stuff going on. So in the room in the East Wing, there was a parallel time of the similar people. They all made different choices, and that's what parallel time is, or they explained it was. And again, at that point in time, it was only theorized by Professor Stokes. Well, we all know the theory became actuality in the series. So that's what parallel time was. Now, we all know what time travel is. They had two ways of time travel, well, three. There was the seance that was held with Victoria Winters, where she went back to 1795, and we learned how Barnabas became a vampire by being cursed by Angelique. There was Barnabas willing himself back in time. You heard that correct. And going back to 1795. He stood by the grave of Victoria Winters, and just willed himself back in time somehow, which was strange. But hey, it's a supernatural show, right? Then there was the I Ching wands, where they throw them on a table, and you had to have the hexagram of change to be able to walk through the door to go back into it was your astral body leaving the physical body and going into, if you had a body in the past, your astral body could go through that door and into your body that was in the past, if you had a physical body to go to. Now, if you did not, if you went back anyway through the I Ching, you would not be there very long because you did not have a physical body in the past. That's how they explain that. So it would pull you back through time through the wands, and you would be back in your own body in your time because you didn't belong in the past, right? That's what was explained in Dark Shadows lore. Um, so Barnabas did go back using the wands because he had a body to go back to. Now, Julia Hoffman did go back too through the wands, and she wasn't there very long because she didn't have a body in the past. In the 1897 storyline, I believe. So there's that. And it pulled her back. So, and the other method of time travel was Quentin Collins in 1840 built a staircase through time, whether you could go back into the past or back into the future. But according to the staircase, it didn't have, you know, even though they showed 1970 and it went back to 1840, it didn't really, according to them, it didn't have an actual where you could come from or go to, in a sense. So, you know, that was their thing. So, but it only showed to, you know, those two times, 1970 and 1840. And yes, 1840, the normal timeline also had a parallel time as well. So 1840 had its own parallel time as well. So again, Dark Shadows dealt with a lot of supernatural elements. And again, I think every bit of that in some way or form is going to get addressed in this new series. Do I think it's all going to get addressed in the pilot? In some sense, yes. I do think, again, think if this is most likely getting set in modern day, because Dark Shadows, the series, was set and took place during the 60s and 70s. Dark Shadows, the revival, took place and was set during the 90s. The 04 pilot, Honored Pilot, same thing, set and took place during 04. So I gotta believe that's going to be the continuation of the trend, where if you're sequeling the series and you're saying this is going to come out in 2020, sorry, you're going to pick up 2020. And, you know, there were a lot of rumors about the Collins family in the 60s and the 70s. Well, that was pre-internet. You know, that was pre-Twitter, pre-Facebook, pre-Instagram. So when a rumor got started back then, it was just either word of mouth or by phone, or, you know, if you mailed somebody through regular snail mail. Now, take the rumor and innuendo and 1,000 times it by Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever. They're going to take the rumor and innuendo, and I think it's basically going to get spread around through the internet. All the Collins family has always been cursed, or the Collins family has experienced this. They've always been this strange family. So I think that's going to be something that they are definitely going to tackle, is the technology of the time, you know, and having to deal with even larger public rumor and innuendo about their family, and whether they're either going to try to just dispel the rumors, or the younger generation themselves are going to try to figure out, well, wait, did this all really happen? You know, is what being rumored really the truth, or is it just people making up shit? You know, that's going to be the real interesting aspect of how they're going to go down that road and portray the younger generation of the Collins family. You know, I think each individual they introduce is truly going to be their own. And that's my hope, too, that each individual they introduce of the Collins family, and even non-Collins family members, is going to be each their own character. So that's what I'm hoping there. Now, do I think they're going to have Barnabas Collins? Listen, I said this in a previous video. Barnabas Collins is a given. they're gonna have him by hook or by crook, one way or the other. Okay, they're going to have Barnabas Collins in this series. Now, is he going to be a vampire? No, I think he's going to get turned back into a vampire, and that's how they're either going to resurrect him, because I think he's either going to be dead, and they're going to resurrect him accidentally that way, or he's going to be alive. And here's how I think they're going to do that too, in my opinion. Remember, Dr. Julia Hoffman was trying to cure him with blood transfusions. And we all know how Julia Hoffman was. She kept shit. And she probably kept samples of Barnabas's vampire blood. You know, Julia Hoffman was in love with Barnabas. She would have let Barnabas turn her into a vampire with the snap. You know, if it meant being with him, she would allow it. In my view of the character, I think they're either going to put the samples of vampire blood in his dead body, but my most one would be if he's still alive and very old and near death, and the family suffering through some sort of event, and he decides to become a vampire himself, again, to help them. Now, I think the first one is going to be more true because, again, the vampire was a secret. By the end of the series, this is who knew. Quentin, Professor Stokes, Julia Hoffman, Willie Loomis. Those four primarily knew Barnabas was a vampire. Okay, most of them are probably going, if not all, are probably going to be dead. And because they respected Barnabas, they're not going to expose his secret. So I think that's going to be how it gets kept. He's going to be dead and somehow get resurrected as a vampire. And trust me, how supernatural Dark Shadows got in the 60s, it's even probably going to be more supernatural in the modern day world. You know, technology and supernatural are going to be a very interesting bedfellow in this new series. And now, how many new characters do I think we're going to get? I think, again, that depends on how many they're going to write in for the pilot. Do I think the pilot's going to introduce every character we're ever going to get? No. But I do think it's going to be like a starter. It's going to be the focus for now and who we're getting at that moment. But I do think it's going to be left up to interpretation of who we may get for even new characters or some old. I don't think every old character is going to be revealed in the pilot either, because there's non-Collins family members who weren't really killed off. Number one, from a non-family member, is Joe Haskell. Now, from a family member standpoint who wasn't killed off, Carolyn, you know, and I'm just the ones who I think are still going to be alive. David, Quentin, Barnabas, you know, and again, I'm not going to get into Victoria Winters because that's a debated one. I think everybody, you know, is on the fence of is she alive or isn't she, and that's fine. You can be. Look, I feel she's alive. If you don't, you don't. The one who is alive, though, Chris Jennings. Chris Jennings could be somebody who they bring back. And I wouldn't be surprised if they bring all of them back in some form or fashion. I'm not going to be shocked if they're written into this series, especially Barnabas. Look, like I said, given. But for ones who, you know, who you might think or think not, there are definitely ones who are going to be there. Now, listen, if there's a Barnabas, which I think there's definitely going to be, you best be sure there's going to be a goddamn Angelique. So, because where Barnabas is, Angelique shall follow straight into hell, whether no matter what. So, and that's always the fun part of it. Now, again, non-family members, I mentioned Joe Haskell is one. Um, is definitely one who, you know, now I think they're going to have descendants of Professor Stokes and maybe Julia Hoffman, depending on how they write that. Again, it all depends on some of the characters I think we're going to get into in the pilot. I don't think they're going. Again, I don't think they're going to introduce every character in a pilot. Yeah, we're going to get some characters in that pilot, but for a long overhaul series, well, not an overhaul, but a sequel, we're going to get the primary characters for now. Do I think we're going to get every character? No, again, no. That's my opinion, though. So I think the potential of the new series, again, it is going to be based upon the older series. And I do think it's going to be addressing, the rumor and innuendo surrounding the Collins family on top of the curse of the Collins family. I think that's going to be, in my opinion, the focus of the series. And again, that's not a bad way to start either. And it's going to be interesting to see how far they take it and where they take it. And I know we're all really excited for the majority. I think we're ready for a new Dark Shadows. It is time to bring this back in a good way. And I hope they take the ball and take it straight to the end zone. To give a sports reference, and I want to get you guys' thoughts too. What is something you think we will see? And I'm not just meaning just Barnabas, or a character you think we'll see. Is there somebody I maybe missed? I'm sure many people are going to say Count Patafi. I wouldn't rule it out, at all. So, again, that's an older character, though, too. So, there are characters you just can't rule out, and he's definitely, in my mind, one of them. So it's going to be really interesting to see who gets brought back in the long haul, and you hear screaming, and who doesn't, and who they're going to have. So I want to get you guys' thoughts who you think we'll see in this entire series from a character standpoint. Is there somebody you're wanting me more to get into detail about? I'm sure many people are going to say Victoria Winters. And I'll do that here a little bit. I just wanted to get you guys, again, I'll do the proper send-off on this video. Okay. Did Victoria Winters die when she was pushed off Widow's Hill? Again, here's a woman who was time traveling. They could write that she fell through a time warp going off of Widow's Hill. It wouldn't be out of the stretch of the imagination. It wouldn't be far-fetched considering how supernatural this series was. Or they could just say she died. I think there is definitely room for possibility for Alexander Isles to return. I think there is huge possibility. But that is up to, number one, her, and number two, them. And yeah, I would love to see her. So let me get you guys' thoughts. Please comment on who you think we'll see, who do you think we won't see. From an old standpoint, maybe from a new standpoint, is there somebody maybe you want to see in this series? As you hear the Dark Shadows screaming, I'm sure. If you can't, then I can hear it. So, like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I'll be reviewing John Philip Betancourt's blog tonight. So, see you.